Welcome to That Anime Thing, episode 6. Today we're going to be talking about our planned trip to Japan and all the things we want to do there. We're also going to be talking about Japan news, some anime news, some real life news, and things we've been watching and things we recommend. Welcome everyone. How you guys doing? Yesh and Dylan are my co-hosts as usual.
Hello,
Hey.
hello.
Hello.
So guys, what's up?
Yeah.
Going well, going easy so far. Thanks for the invite to the podcast as always.
Always
Yeah.
glad to have you guys.
Likewise.
Let's start with some news. So I'm gonna start us off because I suspect mine is gonna be the lightest, fluffiest news we have going for us. Um, there are a bunch of cool new second season and continuing series things with anime that are happening. A lot of them Kadokawa related. One thing that I don't think is Kadokawa, I don't know who makes Takagi-san.
I think it is
Um,
Kadokawa.
I don't think it is. I think it's what's the other one?
Not Silver Fox.
Anyway, Takagi-san has a season 3 that's coming out right now, right? On
Correct.
Netflix. I think
It's
it is.
already airing, I think.
Yeah, it's already airing, and it's been just as good as the other 2 seasons. But I think Netflix is co-sponsoring it, so there's a lot more money being poured into second and third season to Takagi, so it does look a lot better. But there's also a movie that's being made, and I think that'll be pretty amazing. Just as a light, fluffy like anime movie to watch. If anyone doesn't know what Takagi, it's Karakai Jozu no Takagi-san, which is
Teasing Master Takagi in English.
yeah, teasing. Okay, good. It's good at teasing Takagi-san, and it's just about this girl who likes this boy in her class. They're both like middle school students, and because they're Japanese, they can't show their emotions. So she teases him as like a game, in order to spend time with him. Essentially, it's just a fun, lighthearted story. And then other things that are coming up are Overlord season 4, which we got a trailer for. Which the difference between season 3, season 4, and the rest of the seasons are that it's going to be a less condensed story. So with the rest of the Overlord seasons, I think we had 3 novels per season, if I'm right.
Approximately 3, yes.
And this one's just going to be 2. And I think it's going to be 2 because the third novel is going to be the Holy Kingdom arc, I think it's called.
Yes, it's called a Holy Kingdom arc, but we're only getting two parts of the Holy Kingdom arc.
Yeah. But I think what's going to happen is they're going to move that to a movie, which is going to come after that season. So we're going to get the first 2 novels as the season, and then the third novel in that movie, which I think is probably a pretty great idea. And additionally, Isekai Quartet is getting its own movie. I'm a little disappointed that it's not a season, to be honest. But given how short the episodes are, it's probably about the same length of
As a full season.
as a full season anyway. So
Haven't seen some of the screen caps of what they are planning to release. I will say the increase in quality for doing it on a movie budget has definitely helped.
Yes. Although, I mean, who's watching it for the quality?
I accept what you are saying, but I mean, we'll take the positives we can get. There's like a techno Megaman coming as well.
And there have been rumors that ReZero is getting a third season, although people are saying it's being delayed. So I think 2024 is probably when it would air, but knowing ReZero 2025 is probably a more reasonable time frame to expect that season to come out.
Which is 100% acceptable because nobody that watches ReZero is unaccustomed to suffering.
This is true. And it's about the same time frame between the first and second season anyway, so that's what I'm expecting. But that's basically all I have in terms of news, and I think it's all pretty good news. So let's shift tones. And Dylan, what do you got for us?
Sure. On Thursday, there was an inauguration ceremony held for essentially an expanded cyber defense unit for the Japanese SDF. This is coming in, following in the wake of several cyber attacks, including Bridgestone and Kojima Industries Corporation.
Yeah.
We've sort of seen it globally increase as a trend with all of the international news.
It's obvious who is causing this. And I don't think we need to say it.
No, we don't. But it is good that there's a proactive response to this kind of thing. So, and it's quite a large one. It's going to be staffed by about 540 individuals, and they're consolidating a whole bunch of units that have been spread out over the SDF. So
I think it's
like a good move.
It's really important that every country has something like this.
Yeah.
And we're all South African here, and we know our country is completely wide open.
Yeah, I mean it's left pretty much up to the private sector, unfortunately.
Yes, yeah. And having seen some of the systems that protect some of the infrastructure here,
sure,
it's glad no one's paying attention to us. I'm just glad that no one's paying attention to us most of the time.
Yeah.
Anyway, Japan, on the other hand, being like one of the major economies in the world, does need a system like this, and it's a good thing that even the Japanese are taking security seriously again.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Yesh, do you have a story for us as well?
Indeed, I do. On March 16th at 11:36 p.m., North Japan was struck by an earthquake. The earthquake's epicenter measured at a 7.4 on the Richter scale, and the occurrence spread outward through all of Japan, even being felt in Kyushu in the south part of the country. Even in Tokyo, they had a 4.5 Richter scale earthquake as some of the after effects from this passed through the nation. And they are still, to this point in time, experiencing power cuts, as several of the power plants had to be taken offline for servicing and checking for safety. And they are experiencing rolling power outages.
Yeah.
During the occurrence, 3 people died, 2 of which were in their 60s, and 1 is a 70-year-old man. But otherwise, very few things actually went horrifically wrong for people. In fact, a train actually derailed, one of their bullet trains, and it remained upright through the entire incident, and the people simply walked off the train and were picked up by buses within a half hour. So that's some incredible disaster recovery right there.
Japan's emergency planning is the best in the world. There's just nowhere else that even compares to it.
Yeah, no, it's great.
One thing that people always say is, primitive about Japan is that you can see the power lines because they're on poles, right?
Right.
And they're on poles because if they were in the ground, earthquakes would destroy them.
Ripped apart by the earth shifting. Yeah.
So it's by design. It's not like the Japanese are trying to cut corners or anything there. It's easy to repair a power cable if it's out in the open and you can see it. But if you have to rip up the road, that they would be ripping up a lot of roads in Japan to fix it.
The rolling power outages are actually not caused by damage per se. They are being purposefully implemented so that the examinations of individual power structures can be performed. So they were taken offline manually, not because of auto tripping or anything. But obviously, after an earthquake, you have to perform maintenance and safety checks.
One funny thing, did you see the news? What was it? It was like ANN or something in Japan. No, it was a smaller station. Anyway, a news station was live when they were sort of setting up for their show, and the earthquake happened. And you got to see the entire thing sort of unfold in the studio, and the entire studio just rocking from side to side.
Kind of amusingly, abroad in Japan, a relatively famous YouTube channel
Yeah.
was also live at the time of the earthquake.
Oh.
So I got to watch things fall off of his shelves in his studio, which is very unfortunate because he got a lot of memorabilia. But ignoring that, it does look like the number of deaths and casualties and or lesser injuries and greater injuries has been relatively low.
And
Current
with
estimates are 108
and
injuries.
with like the Japanese population and just the size of the
Between the
earthquake, that's
population,
amazing.
but also the magnitude above 5. We don't see civilized, heavy populated zones receiving earthquakes of a magnitude above 5 on average. The
Yeah.
last time we saw one was, once again, Japan, when they had a 9.0, which created the Fukushima incident.
Yeah, I mean, the only place that really happens is Japan, New Zealand, and sort of San Francisco, I think.
San Francisco, Los Angeles will also experience
Yeah.
regular earthquakes. But, Korea, South Korea also gets semi-regular. But once again, most of them tend towards being below magnitude 5. A lot of our buildings are built with the idea of being able to withstand a magnitude 5 approximately.
Yes. Yeah.
But apparently, Tokyo is just like, I guess a 7's fine.
You should. I lived in like a kind of rural place in Japan, and I used to walk to university past some construction sites, and they were building some new houses. The infrastructure below the houses is very interesting because it's all on shifting plates, and like interlocking kind of pegs and such, so the whole house can actually move a bit.
Yeah.
When an earthquake happens. So, I mean, I assume that's just like a standard Japanese practice
Practice,
for
yeah.
new houses. But I mean, if that's the the kind of standard for just a normal house, I'm sure skyscrapers and things are much more stringent.
Mm.
So
Unfortunately, if
yeah.
we're going to talk about building structures, building standards, Sendai Castle, known as Aobajo, has lost its outer walls to a certain extent due to this last earthquake.
Yeah, all those structures are obviously very susceptible to those sort
And
of things.
they've been around for like 700 years or more. So,
Although if you do look at some old Japanese villages, they do have these movable joints in their joists in their ceilings so that earthquakes don't topple them.
just topple them
Yeah.
immediately.
So I mean, Japan is very aware of earthquakes and how to deal with them. Yeah. So our main topic today, we're going to be talking about our planned trip to Japan and what we want to do there. So me, Dylan, Yesh, a couple of our other friends want to go back to Japan for basically a long holiday. Dylan used to go to Japan quite often, right?
Yeah.
Basically every year, if I remember correctly.
We were trying to do that. There were a few times we had to skip, but yeah, I mean, I actually planned on going in 2020. We had like set that up in 2019, and then
Then
changed
everything.
plans.
I remember you even floated the idea of buying one of those old Japanese houses as like a base.
Oh my word! Yeah, this is a thing that we always spoke about in training. Was we should all just club together, purchase like a little house in Nodashi because that's where we train, and then rent it out to the other. It's quite a global or international training
We should
art.
we should look into that again. Actually,
Okay, yeah.
People might think, oh, these rich fucks, what are they talking about? But there's a housing problem in Japan that is the opposite to everywhere else in the world because Japanese population is declining. So there's a bunch of abandoned houses
Yes, yeah.
in the suburbs of Japan, right? So
Mm.
basically, you can get them just for paying the taxes on the land at the moment because a lot of people don't want to even acknowledge that they are the owner of that property, right?
Oh
Because
dear.
like your granddad dies and leaves you the house, right?
Yeah.
But that comes with a lot of transfer taxes and duties and
And the
accumulated
rates.
bills.
Oh no.
And you're maybe not in the best financial position, and if you acknowledge that that is your property, suddenly you have to pay like the equivalent of $100,000 for a house that may not be worth that much right?
Yeah, and I've heard from friends who live there now that, you know, getting a family home is quite a tricky business, and very often what the popular thing in Japan to do is you purchase a house, demolish it, so you're basically just purchasing the house for the land, and then build a new one on it. And so the idea for a relatively young person to purchase a family home is a little bit disconcerting, because you're not going to have much of a resale value for that home, when you need to downsize, for example, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these houses are out in the countryside, and young people tend to live in the big cities because that's where the jobs are.
Yeah,
So they would have no use for that property, really.
yeah,
I mean, if they could rent it out or they could sell it, but I mean, there's no one to necessarily rent it to because people are leaving the small towns in Japan, generally speaking.
mm,
Although
mm.
I do wonder if that's still happening with working from home.
I've seen some stories of young families buying a house in the country when they were sort of started the whole remote work trend, and then moving there. But whether or not that story is really representative of a significant population group is a different story. I don't That would have to look at stats for. But
Yeah,
certainly, the romantic news piece looks amazing. Those houses look phenomenal.
I saw a YouTube series by an Australian man who bought one of those houses,
Mm,
and he he ended up paying more than you would expect, but a very reasonable amount of money for um, for a whole house, a whole family house for him, his wife, and his children.
yeah.
And I mean, it seemed like a really interesting project if you were going to live in Japan and you wanted to live in the country, just to do.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fantasy of owning a house in Japan aside, a more realistic thing is we want to go there just for a holiday, right? Because we haven't
Yeah,
been there for a number of years.
definitely.
Yesh has in fact never been to Japan,
Correct.
and there are a bunch of things we'd love to do. I mean, and let's talk about those sort of things. I'll start us off, right? So I want to go and do a lot of things I've already done again.
Yeah,
So
there's nothing wrong.
I want to go back to some of the places I really liked in Japan. Like I like the back streets of the tech district, Akihabara,
Mm,
and I like just kind of walking through there. The main strip of Akiba is great as well. You got your Gundam cafes and all your otaku stores and the various suspect vending machines and basements that dispense certain items and things
yeah.
that people know about. But the back streets are, I think, where the charm of the place is. Um, you get because it used to be the center of basically the tech industry before Taiwan took over. So there's all these little shops that sell components there, right?
Yeah, it's got that history of being the sort of the bootleg market for radio electronics that were at one stage illegal to
Yeah,
sell among the population. So it's got that sort of, I don't
and
know,
Japan
historic air to it.
and Japan still makes a lot of really high tech components that are
Mm,
used in every computer in the world,
yeah.
specifically capacitors and like CPU substrates and things like that. So a lot of those places still do some of that like semi-legal business for people
Mhm.
who are just trying out engineers who are like basically doing espionage to figure out competitors' secrets and things.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting place to like junk dive because the stuff you find there is sometimes incredible.
Awesome.
Yeah. But besides that, I've been watching a YouTube channel where a guy goes on ferries around Japan, like boats.
Mm.
And they're not like I think like in like in our minds, maybe a ferry is like this little thing that goes across a river. How could you spend time on something like that?
Mm,
Mm.
mm,
But what I'm talking about is actually like something that's more approximately the size of a cruise ship, that you can rent a room on for travel up and down Japan. It's not gonna be the same room your whole time going around there. It just goes from one place to one place. But it's relatively cheap. I think it's an interesting way to travel because train and flights are kind of just a boring, sometimes more expensive way to get around the country. And this
Yeah.
feels like a more laid back, you've got some time to relax. You can sleep while you travel, which is another nice thing that I like. You get a bed. Even if you're in the cheapest sort of room, you're guaranteed to get a full lie down bed, which is, I think, indispensable if you're planning to travel around a country. So
it would
yeah,
be great. Yeah.
and like my idea is to start at Tokyo, go up to Hokkaido, come down the other side of Japan, make your way around the inland sea, and back to Tokyo. I'm not entirely sure of the route, but it would include some of the more interesting places in Japan.
I'm definitely keen on that kind of adventure.
And Dylan, like your reason for going?
So for some of the things that I'd like to do whilst we're traveling around, the one of the things I'd like to do, I haven't really toured any of the temples or shrines very much during my visits. We've been to the shrines and temples that are local to the areas that we've been to, but if we're going to be doing the kind of traveling that you're describing, where you're going from region to region, it would be nice to try and accumulate what we can. One of the things I'd like to do, just as a personal side interest, is go visit the temples and shrines that have statues of tengus.
Yes.
Like two examples of that is there's one in Kentoji in Kamakura.
You're sure, yeah.
And they've got the Hanzobo Shrine, which is quite a famous Avatar Guardian tengu.
Which is interesting. I think it's something to be aware of. A lot of Tengu shrines are not accessible if you're female, because the sacred mountains that they're on are supposed to be male-only areas. So I think that's something to check if you're planning on going to temples.
Yeah,
but we'd be fine to go and have a look at those sort of things.
There's also that's I think the closest like main city there is Nagoya. There's one a bit closer to Tokyo as well.
Nagoya is just little Tokyo. It's like 4 hours away from Tokyo, I think.
Yeah,
nice little place.
Yeah, there's also one in Hachioji, which is quite nice to maybe pop in when we're in Tokyo side.
Yeah, no, I've been there. It's a good one. I think people don't realize about temples in Japan is that they're basically businesses.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which is the fun part of them, because there's memorabilia. You'll be able to buy like a little like statue of the god.
Yeah, get your omamori.
You can like buy good luck charms and like fortunes and seals and all your kind of religious stuff that you might need if you're cursed at temples. So yeah, there are fun places to be, I think, generally speaking.
Yeah.
I think also because the way religion works in Japan, like the Japanese temples are places where you don't associate with death, right? Because like a Japanese person tends to be buried as a Buddhist and not as like a Shinto worshiper.
Yeah.
So the temples don't really deal a lot. I mean, people are different, but mostly they're just places where you go to worship your gods, and not a place to hold a funeral or something like that.
Yeah.
So they tend to be like more fun than churches and mosques and things are.
They're almost like nexus points for tradition and to sort of partake of the culture as well. They kind of for a lot of temples, there's a heavy gear towards being accessible for tourism.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have your your New Year's temples basically as well, right? It's like a New Year's festival where you go to your temple and you wish for good luck and you get your fortune for that year. And I think it's interesting because your fortune can't be anything, like good luck, bad luck, seriously good luck, seriously bad luck. They don't pander to try and make you feel better about anything in those
Yeah.
little things. Of course, they're just like a fortune cookie, really.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think temples would be a great addition to the trip.
And quite doable with the routing that you were talking about earlier.
Because every city has a bunch of temples, and I mean, even if Tokyo is the only place you go to in Japan, like you'll be able to do all of these things within a sort of 3-hour train trip around Tokyo, probably.
Yeah. And they're gorgeous if you ever go into them. Quite a lot of them are just visually stunning.
What is the main temple in Meiji?
Asakusa? Are you thinking about Asakusa?
I think I'm thinking about Asakusa.
That's Sensoji, I think. Sensoji, if I'm not mistaken.
But there's also Meiji Jingu, right? Is around there.
I don't think I've ever been to Meiji Jingu.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter, but like in central Tokyo, there's 2 or 3 like really major big temples. And one of them has an old-fashioned street vendor attached to it. So you can go to the temple, and then there's this kind of road that looks like 16th century Japan outside of it.
Okay,
It's
yeah.
a complete tourist trap, right? But it's interesting, and there's street food, and you can buy kimonos, old-fashioned fans, and that sort of thing there.
Great.
So I think that's a great place to go if you want to get that sort of vibe in Tokyo.
Definitely.
And yes, you wanted to do
I've got
onsens,
some
right?
very basic concepts. I think the only thing I want that's a bit demanding, perhaps, is I want an entire weekend or at least 2 days at an onsen.
I'd be game. I don't think that's demanding.
Your idea was you wanted to be able to drink, right?
So I want to be able to drink and wake up the next day and still have a day at the onsen, because I do want to experience the energetic night. You go, you sit in the onsen for a couple hours, you chat, you get drunk, you spend the night, and then you sober up in the baths as well.
So you want to experience drinking onsen as well as recovery onsen.
Yes, correct.
That's like 2 sides of that coin. That's great.
Well, I also think that the biggest problem I have with a lot of tourism stuff. So I'm not a big tourist guy. I've traveled a fair bit, and I don't enjoy tourism to a certain extent. But I think my big problem with it is that you never get the time to just soak in what the place is.
Yeah.
So for me, going to an onsen is not about going, taking a dip, getting dressed, and then leaving later that same day. Even if we spend like 4 hours there, that feels like a waste of a visit to me. And admittedly, in the most touristy way possible, the way I know about onsens is mostly from anime and manga. So I want that experience. I want the overnight. I want the ability to just visit the baths, spend like a half a day there almost, chat shit.
So then I think we need to work out, is it going to be a good idea to lay off any tattoos until after we've taken this trip?
You should not have tattoos if you're going to go to
an
a
onsen.
Japanese
So
onsen.
they're easing up on that a little bit, but they haven't eased up on it yet.
If you're a foreigner who is not Asian, you will probably get away with it.
Okay. I know that
it's not a great idea.
I know that there's some places that don't mind so long as you cover it up. I just don't know how you would cover it up.
Well, if it's not a big thing, you can just put like a patch over it, like a sports kind of plaster or something.
Yeah.
I mean, drinking in an onsen is a dangerous proposition.
Well, we wouldn't have to be in the baths when we drink.
At university, we had a friend who turned the legal drinking age in Japan, which is I think 19. And so this is the first time he ever drank, right? And so we're good friends, and we got him very drunk, as is tradition. And then we went to an onsen. and he almost drowned.
Yeah.
Oh, my word,
But he
yeah.
was too drunk to realize what was happening, so he kept wanting to get back in the water. But he
Oh,
just went lobster red every time he got too hot and just started sinking.
oh no.
And it was very funny but very serious at the same time. And I think
Hmm.
everyone, I mean, there were a couple of experienced people there, so we managed, not to kill him.
I think that's just playing into Yesha's ideal, right? Because that sounds like something from an anime.
It
It
does
it
sound a bit
it
anime-esque.
felt like that. It honestly did.
I'm
We,
not
we, we
talking
had
about.
we had a Korean guy who had been in the army, and like a Russian guy who they're immune to alcohol, so we
Yeah.
managed to drag him out. But
Well,
it was an interesting experience.
as people who have drunk with me before, for the both of you, I'm not talking about drinking until I pass out because I don't have that much money. But I at least want to get a little bit buzzed and sit in a hot tub for a while. Not a hot
Yeah.
tub, but an onsen. I want to drink cold milk afterwards. I want to chat shit with you guys until like 2 in the morning.
Yeah, that sounds
And
awesome.
then I want to wake up the next day and not be in a rush to leave.
Yeah, no, that's the ideal. So at least 2, maybe even 3 days. 3 days, 2 nights might be the ideal.
3 days, 2 nights might be the optimum or whatever, but at minimum 1 night, maybe leaving like halfway through the next day kind of thing, or 2 nights, depending on what we're feeling or what we can book.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it's something to consider. The logistics of this is going to actually be quite challenging, and
In many ways, yeah. But we are planning on doing it for about 3 weeks, so we should be able to, and perhaps that number can wiggle as well, but we'll see.
yeah, for sure.
But I figure we can get a fair amount of this within that. My other things that I wanted to do are extraordinarily basic and can fit into your plans anywhere, basically. So
I
the other things I
yeah,
wanted to do, sorry,
I was going to say
Chris?
I love Yesha's ideas because they're all good ideas.
Yeah, yeah.
The other
Go
ones
on.
I want to do is I want to go to the big three convenience stores and Don Coyote. So the big three are 7-Eleven, Lawson, and Family Mart.
hmm
In part because I want to experience the food from those places. I've been told repeatedly and often that they're not bad, that they're actually very well made and very healthy.
I mean, they
I
are.
want to buy socks from Lawson. I know that sounds like the weirdest thing, but I've been told Lawson's socks are the most comfortable. Obviously a lie, it's Family Mart's, but I'm willing to give all of them a try. I want to buy my VTuber merch because they sell like spoons and stuff with VTubers on them. I want to buy some HoloLive stuff.
I think Suncast has the best peripheral uh, accessories out of the convenience marts.
And
I
I'm
like
told
it.
that Don Quixote is like a uniquely Japanese expression of capitalism. So
Yeah.
I want to go into a donkey and spend maybe not like a day or something, but like at least an hour roaming donkey.
Yeah, definitely.
Donkeys is always great. It's just a convenience. Sorry, it's just a department store.
It's like a department store,
But
yeah.
if you ask a Japanese person, "Is this a department store?" they'll say no, because Japanese people
It's a donkey.
have a very specific idea of Don Quixote, and doesn't it's not a department store in their idea of what a department store is.
Department store.
It's like
But it's a multiple story shop that has food, clothing, furniture,
craft
electronics.
items.
But it's also supposedly like quite different to a standard department store.
The
It's got
difference
a
is,
certain Japanese taste to it.
I mean, the main difference is it's always open. It literally never closes. So it's a 24-hour department store, which is department stores in Japan are only open between certain hours, and they usually open quite late, like maybe even like 11 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
So you need a plan to go to a department store in Japan, like one of the more fancier ones in like what am I thinking? Not anyway, just downtown Tokyo has a bunch of them, and they're the places where like the staff will line up when it opens to make you feel like you're royalty. So you can like walk between a line of people bowing at the customers coming in, and they have all their little like convenience stalls inside. This place makes petit fours, this place makes specialist sushi, this da 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 da. Doggoat is more just like a normal Western idea of a department store that sells things in departments.
Mm.
But each one of them has like its own like unique character, and I think that's what you're referring to.
Exactly.
One in Akihabara sells cosplay stuff 24 hours a day. Right?
Perfect. Absolute champion.
And the top floor. Guess what the top floor does of the one there?
Plastic figurine?
No. It's the worst thing that happens in Akiba.
Does it have a stage and you can do like cosplay comps?
It does have a stage.
Top floors.
It's where AKB48 performs.
Oh no.
So you can go get your handshakes with your favorite idols there.
Idols. Oh, perfect.
I don't know if that's still a
Anyways,
thing, but yeah, that's
after that, the third thing I wanted to do is I wanted to try street food style Japanese cuisine. So specifically ramen, omurice, and sushi.
takoyaki.
I don't want to order it in. I don't want
Yeah.
like a restaurant that doesn't spec in it. I want to go to a place that does that specifically and have the actual Japanese experience of eating ramen at the place.
Yeah.
So Kishima is the fish market, I think,
Mm-hmm.
where they have the fresh tuna and such things.
Mm.
And next to that is the name is just flying from my head. But
Yeah,
it's
I
yeah.
can't
So,
remember the names myself.
so I think that's the place to go in Tokyo, right? Because that's where like sushi happens in Japan, like the best sushi in the world.
Well, I'm gonna be extremely relaxed about where we end up going for this because I want to be able to fit into our plans, whatever they may be. But I reckon like any family store should be able to serve an omurice. Couple other places for a sushi or a ramen. There should be a ramen store.
I feel like
omurice is definitely a Tokyo thing as well, I think.
Yeah. And I feel like we should do our research because a lot of the best places are often quite quiet. You know, they're not as well known, but they're well known in that location, right?
Yeah, I mean,
So-
and we do know a bunch of people who live in Tokyo, so
Yeah,
we
yeah.
So we
should be
can
able
ask.
to find out.
I mean, if we pass by Nodashi, but I doubt we will. But if we do, I can take you to a phenomenal, authentic sushi restaurant. If you want
Excellent.
the whole 9-yard experience.
My favorite memories of sushi in Japan are the kaitenzushi, which are conveyor belt sushi restaurants.
Oh no,
Hmm.
I've got the opposite. Hey, sure.
Well, I mean, they're maybe not always like positive memories, but they're my favorite.
I mean,
because
they're interesting. Yep.
Like this was like almost like 7-8 years ago now. Like it was super high tech. It was just like a chain restaurant, and it was near our dorm. But everything we know was touchscreen, and
Yep.
there was a little game involved with the different colors of sushi plates. So at the end of your meal, you could win a prize if you did like something on a screen. But you cannot pay with a credit card. that is the most annoying thing about Japan. Is
Very unfortunate.
we will build a conveyor belt system so that you never have to interact with a waiter in this entire restaurant. An automatic return system for our plates. We'll hook everything up to mobile iPads so you can order from wherever you are in the restaurant. But we're not going to accept credit cards as a payment.
See, it's like its own kind of experience, especially when you get to some of the items if you can't read Japanese, right? And I think in this case, Chris, you're gonna have to just keep quiet, right? We need to make a deal that at least for some of it, not all necessarily, because you do want to have good food, but for some of it, we'll do experimental dishes, and you keep quiet because some of the stuff that you can get
Are you talking about the dessert?
I'm talking about a main that looked like a dessert that definitely wasn't a dessert and had many layers to it.
Hirako.
There are so many things.
Well, I think I can talk about one which is actually a dessert, and it's just a funny characteristic of Japanese because they like to shorten the names of things, right?
Mm.
So Japanese love crepes, pancakes, right? Thin,
Mhm.
Yeah.
thin pancakes. And
Yeah.
there is a dessert which is called milk crepes.
Yes, there
And
is. Yeah.
there is. And they make it like a Russian cake, a Russian honey cake, where it's multiple layered. But
Mm.
it's milk crepe is too long a word. So they just take the last part of crepe and just slap milk onto it. So it becomes a rather more violent dessert by the sound of it than
Oh no.
you'd think.
No.
But yeah, that's one of the fun things about Japan. Um, Wendy's has an interesting name in Japan as well.
Oh,
It's used to be called Wendy's First Kitchen, and in Japanese, they could say First Kitchen, or you could take the kin part and the fa from first and kitchen and just shove them together.
fucking. Mhm.
Fakin is one of the best place to get diner style food in Japan.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it wasn't Kinpatsu somehow.
Well, she's got red hair. Yes, that would be ridiculous.
Not gold.
Yeah,
Do you guys think we could fit in a kabuki theater performance? It's also something I've always wanted to do.
that's next to the fish market, so yeah, why not?
Yeah, man. Make a day of that.
But if we're gonna do food tourism, like Yesh is suggesting, then we need to go have takoyaki.
Yes.
Oh
And,
yes, yes.
And okonomiyaki as well.
well, yeah, I mean, I think we go to the places that are famous for those things.
Maybe like
as one
Osaka.
does.
Right.
Osaka for takoyaki and Hiroshima for okonomiyaki. I think is the place to go.
Is it? Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. I've always heard of Osaka okonomiyaki, but then, I think Osaka gets visited
Yes.
more often in general tourism
It's
than
central tourism, yeah.
Hiroshima. Yeah.
I'm not sure about Osaka one. I know there's the Tokyo style and then there's the Hiroshima one. And having had the Tokyo style one, I would say never again.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
The Hiroshima one is the better one. It's delicious.
I've never had either, despite how many times I've gone, and that's always been like something I need to do.
It's interesting because there's many like okonomiyaki restaurants but they're always like these places that are run by an old woman or like just a family, so they're never well advertised. You can't see them on the main streets and things.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably why
that's
you
the
haven't
exact
gone.
kind of thing that I'm after. There's also, if you're doing food tourism as well, but I don't know. This is a fantasy item for the wish list, right? Because I don't think we could actually pull this off.
Mhm.
There's what's called the best restaurant in Japan, and hence the best restaurant in the world, which is a restaurant called Yanagiya, if I'm pronouncing that right. And
Yeah.
and they serve, well, they prepare their food in a traditional irori, which is a sunken hearth.
Yes.
So they've got like a little, essentially like a stone line cut out into the floor, and they put their fireplace in there, and they grill basically all locally captured fish and game, or locally captured and hunted fish and game. So it'll be wild boar, venison, duck, the various fish that they've managed to get there. The problem with it is that as far as I know, it's by invite only.
Yes.
You can't just book or rock up. You need an invite. So that's on my fantasy wish list.
But
Yeah.
I mean, there are lots of really great
Yeah.
places to eat in Japan that we don't have to be famous to get into.
Oh no, sure. And if we can find a place with a traditional irori, I'd love, even if it's just to stay in. That would also be very cool.
There's like I don't know. I'm not so squeamish about it, but there's a place which serves eel, which I think a lot of people think is disgusting.
No, unagi is amazing.
But it's the most
rolled
delicious.
unagi is
It's the
amazing.
most delicious thing like you could eat.
It's
You'd be surprised. It's so much better than normal fish.
It's a real problem, right? And you hear the stories of like in whatever 15th century or whatever, where they've got ships carrying turtles and they just go extinct because they love eating them. And you think that's nonsense. It can't happen. And then you have unagi once, and at least well prepared unagi, and you're like, I feel really bad. I'm contributing to this species, diminishing numbers, but I'm gonna order it if I can. You can't stop me.
I mean, the Japanese have basically exhausted their natural eel supply in Japan.
It's so good though.
And the only other place in the world they occur is the northern Russian islands, which, are a bit of a problem at the moment, and Taiwan. And so they're exhausting Taiwan's supply as well.
I know. And Japan, there's a reason why they might actually go to war for that. It's so good.
I mean,
So
it must be
popular as
nice if you're Taiwan, because you know that you've got some backup if
Yeah.
in Japan if China ever decides to come for your eels.
Yeah. We'll
So
save
why
your
is
eels.
this platoon called Unagi Platoon?
It would happen. It would happen. But there's like a little Japanese restaurant overlooking the seaside in one of the coastal towns near Tokyo. On one of those sort of sandy beach peninsulas. I can't remember what it's called right now. It appears in Eurocamp, right? So if you want to reference that exact restaurant, it's there.
But I don't remember the names.
There's many of the style of these things, and they have fresh eels in aquaria maybe, and they kill it in front of you, which is kind of gross.
Sounding like one of those restaurants with the lobsters, right? And they're like, please select your lobster, and they pull it out.
Yeah, but I mean that's how you're assured it's the freshest of the fresh. Right?
Freshest stuff. Yeah.
If you are sensitive to high-pitched screaming, please block your ears now.
You don't have to sit.
They do kill it humanely, or as humanely.
No. So Dylan,
not this one.
They hook its head on a spike.
No, I do realize, but they pretty much they leave it in ice water beforehand, so the thing's metabolism pretty much shuts down. So it's not really fully conscious whilst it's being.
Well, I hope not. They hook its head on a spike, pull it straight, and then pull out its guts before they fillet it.
I mean, there are worse things in food preparation that side that I've seen.
I mean, you have to just square the fact that it's an eel and you're going to eat it anyway.
Yep.
But you don't have to sit at the bar while they do it. I assume you.
No, I think the three of us can go grab a drink in the meantime, right?
Yep.
Right, exactly. But it is the most delicious meat.
It is. So good.
So since we're talking about less likely things, or things that we want but we don't really want to push for, I would say. I did want to add one more onto mine, because I was just doing my list and I left this one off because it's perhaps the harder one to accomplish, apart from go to your local corner and go to a 7-Eleven. The harder one for me would be I want to be able to scream Tamaya at least once, which actually translates to I want to go to a festival that has a fireworks show.
I mean, the issue that we're having with that is that means going to Japan during summer.
Do they only do fireworks shows in summer?
Generally speaking, a Hanabi festival is midsummer.
Right. I don't want to go in summer, so we can skip that.
I think Flame Festival.
Yeah, also it happens midwinter, maybe? I could be wrong, though. So maybe New Year's also has a fireworks.
I feel like it's worth researching. So let's commit to researching.
But the festival that you're imagining in your mind is like the one you see in anime. For example, in the Endless Summer arc of Harui.
Yes, yeah. So I'm less interested in the whole festival, but I do want festival food and I do want fireworks. But I don't feel like anything else is necessary. I don't care about any of the games or the crowds or the.
But so that's the progression, right? So that basically everywhere this happens, they set up those stalls in like a progression towards the area where you end up to watch the fireworks.
Right.
So you have to progress through that area, which is organized generally by a temple or a local municipality or something. You go and get your squid head on a stick kind of thing.
So that's the important part for me. I'm less concerned about the festival than I am about the festival food.
Right, yeah.
I am a pleb, by the way. For anyone listening, I am a pleb. I don't care about the culture. I just want to enjoy the street food.
But I mean, yeah, it's a fun thing to do, and we'll try and work that in. I mean, Japan in summer is hell, though.
No, I don't want to go in summer.
So hot.
I'm super negative about heat. We can skip that.
Yeah, and we live in like a hot place most of the time, but Japan is on another level.
Yeah, it's humid, so
sea
That
level,
can
humid,
just bugger right off.
often raining at the same time. Not the greatest time. I'd suggest we avoid that particular season.
Entering into winter or exiting from winter is when I'd like to consider going. That's about it.
On my kind of likely not to happen list would be a camping excursion.
Oh, I don't know. That'd be cool.
I'd
I
love
think-
to go. I think Yesh is okay with it as well, right?
I'm okay with it
Are-
as
are
long
you
as we
about
don't
to-
do it for like 5 days or something.
Are
If
you
we do
about
it
to
for like
say a
3.
certain forest?
No, I don't want to go to the forest because they're bugs.
Oh, okay. I'm just checking because I've got multiple friends that are like, "Let's go to this forest," and I'm like, "That's weird." Anyway, sorry. Carry on, Chris.
But I think another of our friends who is coming with us hates camping.
Mm.
So it might be a difficult one to
I mean,
to
like,
arrange.
there's nothing saying that we can't split up for a day and like reconvene later, right?
That's true. And what I was thinking in particular is in Hokkaido, and
Ooh,
we would have to go,
ooh,
more in the summer because that place is in the Arctic Circle, so it's
yeah,
impossible to go to during winter.
yeah.
They have these like wide open flat fields. I mean, it's basically like the Kansas of Japan when you look at it. And they make all the good food there. Some of the
Yes.
best beer, cheese,
Oh.
smoked meats. You
Yes,
could have
please.
a proper barbecue kind of style camping thing.
I mean,
And
camping with
I'm
smoked meats is
sure
just the best.
there must be like something that caters to tourists going there, so you don't have to like buy equipment and stuff. You can just rent like a
A
tent
tent
or
and a
whatever.
bed
Yeah.
roll.
Or even like if we can't find one of those, there'll probably be a cabin somewhere we can rent, right?
Yeah, that would
If
be
at,
pretty
at
awesome.
minimum, at minimum. But we can look for the camping thing. I am game for that. That would be amazing.
No,
I don't
think
know
it'd be
if
great.
we would hit flower season there, which apparently is just stunning.
Yes, yeah.
But I'm game. We're gonna do it.
So that's my those are my goals with the trip, and I think they're all like relatively achievable.
Yeah.
Obviously, not Dylan's
Yeah, no.
restaurant we can't get into, but we'll find some.
I mean, maybe
places.
someone who listens to this will know someone, and they'll be like, "Yeah, we'll organize an invite for
Yeah,
you."
please comment about interesting places we could go to.
Yeah.
And we'll send you a picture from them when we do.
Definitely.
Let's talk about time frame, right? We're thinking about a year and 7 months, or 2 years from now, would be the time we do this, just to give us enough time to plan it, save up the money for it as well.
Yeah.
And we don't want to wear masks and have to worry about COVID while we're in Japan, right?
Yeah.
So hopefully things are normal by that time frame again. And I think things are slowly getting more normal.
Very slowly.
Japan is obviously progressing more slowly than other places in the world because they're extremely cautious, which is not a bad thing. But I think we're getting there. That is my opinion at the moment. I don't know.
I'd agree with it. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, what else do you guys think we need to do?
There's a long list of various things. I don't, sure.
So just in terms of major cities we want to hit, Tokyo, Kyoto,
Said Hokkaido as well.
Sapporo.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was thinking Nagasaki, Hiroshima. I don't know about that though. One of those, probably Hiroshima for the food.
I mean, we can plan big and then work out what it's actually, what we actually have to start limiting
Feasible.
and start to cut it down so it's not too stressful where we're like jetting off everywhere.
Yeah, we don't want to be. Maybe we work it out so we're like it's a week here, a week there, and a week in a third place, right?
Yeah, and like finding places where we can get multiple things on the list sort of done. Like I'd like to visit the Yamazaki distillery. Yamazaki is one of my favorite whiskeys.
Right, and that is Hokkaido, right? So
that's in Kyoto actually.
It's in Kyoto. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't realize.
So either way, I mean, Sapporo is there in Hokkaido, and I'd love to go to their brewery. Got no problem with that.
The one island we're not going to hit is Okinawa, I think.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to take a skip on Okinawa, I suspect.
Mostly
Mm.
because we have seen beaches and they're very nice, but it's not the most interesting place in Japan, unfortunately.
Yeah. I mean,
So
I've
based
never.
on, sorry, carry on, Dylan.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I've never been there, but from the sounds of it, it's just essentially got the tropical beach vibes. I've known people who've gone through, and it's as far as I'm aware, it's kind of known as the place that you go to when you can't go to Hawaii. Right? And
Correct, yeah.
I'm not trying to be mean to it. I'm sure it's amazing, and I'm sure the food is really good.
And people in particular are very warm there.
Yeah.
Got an interesting like local language as well.
Yeah, but when you've got
Sounds
limited time and limited resources, you kind of have to prioritize where we,
yeah,
where
and
not.
it would take something like 5 days travel
Yeah,
to
yeah,
get there and back. So it's a time sink.
yeah.
But yeah, that's our Japan plan, and yeah, uh, we'll check in with that every maybe 6 months or so, I think,
Yeah.
and see what we've decided to do.
Mm,
Okay,
I'm a fan of pushing that back a little bit from what we initially said. Not by a lot, but probably by about a half a year myself. So
Mm,
yeah. Well, again, we'll see how it goes.
yeah.
exactly.
Next up will be what we're reading. What are we watching?
Sure. So I have been rereading the last 40 or 45 chapters of One Punch Man because
Oh, wow.
Murata has recently re-edited, re-illustrated
I saw some
some
great
parts of
new
those
cover
chapters.
art for some of those.
Yes. Murata is an incredible artist. He has a great deal of passion. He's ridiculously into the project. And the chapters that he's been releasing for One Punch Man recently have been just utterly incredible. So going through the Monster Association arc done by Murata is a pleasure and a joy. And now that he's re-illustrated them, I wanted to re-experience them. Because I'm experiencing them as he releases them, which means sometimes there's a month, sometimes there's 2 months between chapters.
That must be one of the most satisfying things to do as an artist, to come back to something and do it better a second time, and
Mm,
have the surety that people still want it.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely. And obviously, he's re-going over them because they're getting ready to publish this into their monthly magazine. So he's getting ready to put this out into hard print. And since Murata started drawing One Punch Man, its sales have just been stupid. So, all
yeah,
around, a good thing to be doing.
and yeah, Dylan, what have you been up to?
So work's still killing me. I've been diving into a YouTube channel called Kotsumet, which is a Japanese YouTube channel that follows two freshwater otters, and their owner that takes them on different adventures. So he, like, takes them camping by a riverside, and they're like all on leashes, But
Oh,
he'll
that's
take
cute.
them into the river, and they've got really good uh, film film equipment, so they can film underwater, and you can see this otter in its element, super happy. He spoils them rotten. They get fed salmon. There was a birthday buffet for Kotoro, which is one of the male otter. Hannah's the female, and Hannah's a bit of a glutton. So like they definitely have their own characters, right? It's like watching a show in a very real sense. Hannah's a bit of a glutton and definitely the more dominant of the pair. So she'll often steal food out of Kotoro's bowl, where Kotoro is just this happy-go-lucky kind of otter. So he'll just sort of eat out of his bowl, and he doesn't mind that Hannah's stealing his food. He's just happy that he's living his best life. And he had a birthday buffet in one of the videos where the owner very kindly brought him first, and he just went from like bowl to bowl, just sniffing, and like he tried a little bit of salmon, which is his favorite, and then he got tired, so he went upstairs to go fetch Hannah. And then when they both came down, then they both really had a great time and enjoyed it. So he likes to share his experience. It's one of the cutest. It's one of the best ways to wind down.
That
There's
that does
nothing.
sound like just a relaxing thing to watch.
That's amazing. I love it. And I personally want to thank the YouTuber who makes this stuff because that's great.
So I've decided I want to know more space terminology in Japanese,
Cool.
and I'm not willing to just memorize lists of things. So I've just decided to watch Star Trek dubbed in Japanese,
Awesome.
and I think that will do it. That's the entirety of my plan. At the moment, I'm really obsessed with Lower Decks, and so I've started watching the dubbed version of that. And then I think I'm going to watch probably Deep Space Nine after that.
Nice.
In non-Japanese things, also Star Trek related though, I did watch some of the second season of Picard. And I don't know how to feel about it because I kind of hate it, but I kind of like the second episode a little bit.
What do you hate about it?
If you watch the first season, it's just the dumbest thing and representative of like a show that is for views or money or merchandise or something. They take a lot of the core concepts of like Star Trek and they kind of destroy them in very like, I don't know, just greedy kind of ways that a company who doesn't really care about the property they have would do.
Okay. They kind of Disney it. All right.
And it's sort of, well, I think Disney would handle it better.
Oh no.
I mean, it sort of feels worse than what happened to Star Wars.
There's a feeling of hatred for Trek.
It was like they're doing it on purpose, vindictively in front of you.
There's a level of vindictiveness to it.
Like stroking it.
It does feel that way. It's like, hey, you liked 7 of 9, right?
Yeah, this is your baby.
Remember how she settled down with Chakotay and was, gradually becoming a calm, productive member of society? Nope. For some reason, he's nowhere in the scene. She's lost her best friend and is now a
Psychopathic mass murderer.
Yeah. Remember how Picard was a well put together, respected captain? Nope. No, not anymore. He's gone rogue again and is.
He's going around the universe apologizing for all of the mistakes he's made because he's ruined everyone's life.
Yeah, it's a weird one.
Chris, you might remember we had a discussion about episode 2, and you said you didn't mind it, but I said I hated it.
Correct, and we had the opposite opinion about episode 1. So
no, we agreed on episode 1 roughly. We both kind of felt hope.
No, I kind of really hated episode 1. I think.
Oh,
yeah,
interesting.
And I only watched episode 2 because you didn't hate it.
I didn't hate episode 1. I actually felt hope for positive things.
So it's a very much like, I'm not sure why I'm watching this kind of thing at the moment, but that's what I'm doing.
Cool.
Well, I wish we could leave that on a little bit of more of a positive note, but this has been a nice conversation about Japan.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Yeah, that'll do it for today. Thanks, Yesh. Thanks, Dylan.
Thanks, Chris.
You.
Thanks, Yesh.
Don't forget to mention what we are discussing next time.
Next time, we'll be discussing ReZero. Season 1, but especially Season 2.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
And, thanks for watching, guys. This has been That Japanese Thing. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.